Fox News drone images showing a massive line in the river and on U.S. soil as thousands crossed illegally in a...
Welcome to Black But Not Blue. Today we are going to talk about something that the mainstream media just is completely ignoring. We are going to talk about our southern border. The reason that I feel like it's so important to discuss this is because if you are not on X, I don't know how much people even know about this situation. Now, in the past, when X was Twitter, it never caught on with me. But the reason that I use X is because it is the best place for news. Now, you may be saying, oh, what? Are you some crazy right-wing Black person? No, I'm not. What I am, though, is someone that likes to be informed. So, for example, I don't know how much of this is coming through the mainstream media. All I know is that when I go to CNN, NBC, ABC, all of that, the top story is the fact that Trump is supposed to pay some lady who claims that he raped her in a changing room in a large department store in the 90s. She's not sure what year. And even though he was found to be not guilty of that, he has to pay her $83 million because they say he said some not so nice things about her. While that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in terms of the law, I think it's really interesting that would happen today. Today is a day that Governor Greg Abbott in Texas had a deadline. He had a 1 p.m. deadline, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to stop putting razor wire along the southern border. Well, guess what? He said no. But it's not just Greg Abbott in this fight now. There are 24 other governors who are supporting him. They are sending reinforcements, either National Guard or special police units and things like that, to the border to help. And the reason that they're going there is because at this point, we are just being overrun. And the federal government knows it. And the only reason that this is happening on this scale is because Mayorkas, who is supposed to be in charge of Homeland Security, has said, do not enforce the law, which came from Joe Biden, who is the president. So now the president is going on X, and I'm sure Facebook too, and posting things like he needs this bill to pass that they have been discussing in Congress. Well, actually, they haven't really been discussing it. The senators haven't seen it yet. So basically, they're trying to push through a bill that they don't even want to give people time to read. Now, he's making it sound like there are no laws in place, and that's why this is happening. Remember, during Trump's presidency, this wasn't happening. During Obama's presidency, this wasn't happening. The only thing that has changed during Biden's presidency is that he has asked, well, at least told, Border Patrol to ignore federal law. Nothing else has changed other than he did invite people to come to the border. But now we have illegal immigrants pouring in from all over the world. And the process is they show up. They don't have to really give any reason for asylum. They just say, I'm afraid to go back to my country. And then they automatically are seen as an asylum seeker, no matter where they're coming from. But most of them, they are coming for jobs. They're economic illegal immigrants, which is not a good thing to be. Why? Right now, we have a situation in New York where there are so-called immigration advocates and illegal immigrants who are up in arms because finally the mayor there said that after 60 days, illegal immigrants had to leave the shelters. Why? Because New York City has a homeless population of New Yorkers. So they have to leave the shelter and find someplace else to go after 60 days. If they don't find any place to go, they can come back and they can apply to be readmitted to the shelter. But obviously, guess what? It's cold in New York. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, they're being bused. All these migrants are being bused to New York. Well, here's something that is very interesting. Most of the migrants that end up in New York are going there on their own. They're not being forced to go there. They want to go there because of New York's policies. Now, you're going to see the same thing with California, too. They want to go to those states because they have policies that support illegal immigration. So, because of that, New York City is now overrun with illegal immigrants. And what's happening? New York kids are having like items cut from their school lunches. Sometimes the school is closed because they need to house illegal immigrants. And this is just something that, for some reason, either people don't know about it or they are turning a blind eye to it, and they're just saying, well, these are people too, and they should be able to come in through the border. But actually, if you look at it, this isn't a kind and caring way to bring someone into the country. It has a lot of uncertainty, and we do have some places that get pretty cold, like Chicago and New York and Detroit, and these illegal immigrants are in those cities. And those cities have problems of their own. So they have a choice. They can either neglect their citizens or they can neglect the illegal immigrants. Obviously, you want to take care of your citizens, but let's be real. In a lot of cases, citizens don't get the services that cities have, or the cities don't have enough. So this is a huge problem. And when I hear somebody say, oh, how could you be so cruel to want to close the border? Well, you want to close the border because right now you need to catch up. There are a bunch of people in our country who are suffering. And this isn't on the news a lot, but there are a bunch of kids that are being trafficked. Now, human trafficking has many facets. And while there is sex trafficking, a lot of these kids are being trafficked for labor. New York Times did a great piece on it several months ago. I believe it was early last year. And I'm going to include links below because I don't know that most people saw it or whatever. But if you are aware of this, then you know that the policies at the border are not helpful for anything, not for our country, but also not for the people that are coming across the border. It also fuels another illegal stream of income for the cartel. Now, not only are they bringing through fentanyl, they're also bringing through people who have paid them lots of money to come. And if something happens to that person, if they're not feeling well or something like that, they're probably going to end up dead in the desert. So, I mean, this is a huge issue. And I think a lot of people are seeing it through political eyes. But if you see it through just common sense, this is not the way to go. Also, I don't know if people are watching actual reports from the border. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. did one several months ago where he went down there and he's talking to the Border Patrol and he's like, what are we doing? Also, Peter Sanatello went to the border and he rode around with a sheriff, I believe it was. I'm going to link it below because he's not a political figure. He's just trying to tell stories, give people information. So his videos are really great to watch because he doesn't have a slant. He just lets people tell their stories. And then we also have Ben Shapiro. He recently went down there. And what you'll notice from all three of those videos, these are people who are coming from different spectrums. You'll notice that they tell the same story. The people that they interview tell the same story. They are no longer able to enforce the law, so it's just free reign. I'm also not sure how many people actually watch congressional hearings. I do because I work from home. I put it on the background so that I can hear what's going on. But these are really important to watch because you can hear Mayorkas, who is the Secretary of Homeland Security, actually say, yeah, we've stopped the policy of remain in Mexico, and now it's just catch and release. So basically, if you catch someone, in fact, they kind of beckon the Border Patrol over because they know that the Border Patrol can't hold them anymore. So you catch them, you might get a little bit of information, and then they're off into the country. So I think it's really important to, instead of listening to like CNN or Fox News or whatever, or ABC, NBC, whatever, instead of listening to all those things, you have to take the time to actually see what the people involved in the situation are saying. So that's why I'm including the interviews, the little documentaries from Ben Shapiro, Peter Sanatello, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and also the congressional hearings. So then you can try to figure out what's going on at the border, because it is clear that mainstream media, it seems to be run by a bunch of people who have a very serious slant. And when there's a slant, a lot of people get turned off, which is why so many of the mainstream media outlets are kind of going out of business. It's not just because they're newspapers and things like that. It's because they are not giving us news. They're activists. They're pushing agendas. And when I see that, I'm like, I don't even want to read this. This is ridiculous. And then I try to find the source. So if you have time, please check out the videos below for more information about what is actually going on with our border. And just as a reminder, right now, please stay up to date on what's happening at the border, because the federal government and Texas and 24 other states are pretty much in a standoff, okay? Also, Joe Biden has retaliated against Texas by stopping natural gas exports, which Texas is number 1 for that in the U.S. and number 3 in the world. So he's trying to hurt them economically because Greg Abbott won't back down, but he can't. It's been so long. I'm surprised it took him this long to do it. But I think now at this point, it's like, this has to happen. Has to happen now. Of course, in the back of my mind, I kind of think, this is happening because it's election year. And you know how that goes. When election year comes around, a lot of things go into motion that should have been put into motion long ago. So I get it. Both sides play these games. But we need to be aware of what's actually happening, because while they're playing their games, we have to deal with the consequences. So that's all for now. I hope you have a chance to watch the videos, and I'll see you in the next one.